there. Marlo Stern, The Daily Beast, and Manhattan Movie Magazine. I'm just wondering, a lot's been made of sort of the embellishment and sexualization of certain scenes in this film, and I'm just wondering if you could talk about which scenes in particular were, you know, very embellished.
Sure, I'll talk about it for a moment before I hand it over to David. None. And I don't know where this has come from. I'm not going to sell any tickets by making this statement, but I have to tell you that there is less sex in this movie than there is in any 2 minutes of Gossip Girl. Nothing in the movie was invented for the sake of Hollywoodizing it or sensationalizing it. There are, as I explained, because of the 3 different versions of the story that were given, not just in the deposition rooms, but there was a lot of first-person research that I did with people who were characters in the movie and people who were close to the event, most of whom were speaking to me on the condition of anonymity. And there were a lot of conflicting takes, so there are going to be a lot of people saying, that's not true, that didn't happen, just as they've been saying that since 2003. The work that I did is exactly the same as the work that any screenwriter does on any nonfiction film. You know, when Peter Morgan writes The Queen, he's going from fact to fact to fact, but Peter Morgan wasn't in Queen Elizabeth's bedroom when she was talking to her husband about their daughter-in-law. Moreover, and more important, people don't speak in dialogue and life doesn't play out in scenes. There's work that the dramatist does, but nothing was invented, certainly nothing was sexualized in order to amp up the temperature on the movie. Even the Harvard Club scenes, with that you're talking about the punch party at the beginning of the movie, that is based on descriptions of punch parties given to me by Final Club members who have been at these punch parties.
But not punch parties. Not punch. Girls aren't at punch parties. But
not punch parties. So I'm sorry, punch parties is something different. Those beginning of the year parties, the bus that brings girls to the parties, what goes on at those parties. But those parties, that particular scene, again, is an example of, is that scene really happening, or is that the party that Mark's imagining in his head that he can't be at? That kind of thing. This is a nonfiction story.
Do you have anything to add?
I have nothing to add. No, I mean, you have to keep in mind that there's a point of view, there is a perspective, and you have to be, you know, certainly we can do a lot of research, and we had stories that were told to us that were far worse, far more salacious, far more demeaning to the participants than the stuff that we chose to actually show, and you know, we had to temper it, and we felt that this looked enough like. I mean, we were trying to tell a story about somebody who is sitting at home doing something and going, everybody else is having far more fun than I am. And that's the narrative purpose of it.
Hello, I'm Lotta with the Swedish media. To Mr. Fincher. Rooney Mara, she doesn't have a lot of screen time in this, but she's absolutely great. And I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit about casting her in this, and also when you knew she would be right for the role in The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo.
Well, I mean, I met Rooney auditioning for this, and pretty much all the things that we loved about her for Erica are the kinds of things that we loved about her for Lisbeth. And she's really capable. She's a smart, hardworking, serious actress, and she came in and auditioned for Dragon Tattoo, and we were kind of like, yeah, she's still great. And I also felt I needed somebody that people didn't have a preconceived notion of who they were or how they would behave, and so I love the fact that she's a mystery into which, you know, the audience can project.
Unfortunately, time for the last question. Sir.
Yeah, this is for Mr. Fincher. I'm at Douglas coming soon.net.
What about Andrew?
Yeah,
what about Justin?
What about me and
Tomorrow
Justin?
at the junket, so I'll talk to you here because you're only not at the junket.
Okay, that's fine with us.
You can try to answer the question for him, but Mr. Fincher, I was curious. A lot of the early word about this is saying it's a departure for you. I'm curious what you think about those People saying that.
Because it doesn't involve somebody aging backwards, or because it doesn't involve serial killers?
I don't know. I'm curious about what you think about that. People calling it a departure for you and how you feel about that.
You know, I'd like to give it a lot of really deep thought, but I probably won't. I don't know. I mean, you read scripts that you want to see the movie of, and you go, and then you beg to be involved. And this was one of those. And I know now, and I felt it when I was shooting it, that I was gonna, be able to make something that I could look back on, 10 or 12 years from now and say, I got to work with all these guys right as it happened, right as they kind of coalesced, and it was a great opportunity to work with a lot of, people who came to play, and it was an ensemble movie that was going to live and die by the quality of whether or not you believe the behaviors of the people who were gifted this man's words, and every day of the 72 days that I was lucky enough to be able to shoot this movie, I got to walk away from it saying, he's good. That's going to work. I buy those two together, and that looks like a marriage coming apart. So, I feel about it like, would I have loved to have made American Graffiti? Now sort of in its own weird way, I've been able to. I got to do something where I got to look at 8, 9 people across a screen and go, there was a moment in time where they all were in the same movie.
Well, thank you so much for
Thank
coming
you
out
very
this
much.
morning.